In the bustling atmosphere of the White House press room, the air was thick with anticipation. Journalists from every major outlet had gathered, notebooks and cameras at the ready, waiting for the day's press briefing to begin. At the center of it all stood Karoline Leavitt, the newly appointed press secretary under President Donald Trump. Young, articulate, and fiercely intelligent, Karoline had quickly become known for her sharp wit and unwavering composure. As the clock struck noon, Karoline approached the podium, her expression calm yet determined. The room fell silent, every reporter ready to catch every word. She began with the administration's recent successes in economic reforms and foreign policy, but the room's tension hinted at the storm to come. The first question flew from a reporter at the back, a known critic of the administration. Ms. Leavitt, many have criticized the president's latest foreign policy move as rash and uninformed. How do you respond to these accusations that the president is out of his depth? Without missing a beat, Karoline replied, "Thank you for your question. The president's decision was anything but uninformed. Let me outline the months of intelligence gathering, consultation with experts, and strategic planning that led to this decision." Her response was meticulous and detailed, displaying a commanding knowledge of the topic. The room briefly hummed with the scribbling of notes and the clicking of cameras. However, the respite was short-lived. Another reporter, from a popular liberal news outlet, took the chance to steer the narrative towards controversy. "Ms. Leavitt, there are rumors that there is significant dissent within the cabinet regarding this decision. How do you maintain that this was a unanimous decision when there are clear signs of internal disagreement?" Karoline's eyes flashed with a hint of steel as she addressed the question head-on. It's crucial to understand that in any dynamic administration, there will be discussions and debates. That's a sign of healthy deliberation, not dissent. The president values all input, but at the end of the day, the unanimous decision was in full support of the policy. The questions continued, each more probing than the last. The reporters seemed to circle like sharks, each trying to bait Karoline into a slip or controversial statement. Yet, with each query, she responded with precision and authority, her confidence unshaken. As the briefing neared its end, a seasoned reporter known for her liberal stance raised her hand. Her question was sharp, intended to corner Karoline into a defensive position. "Ms. Leavitt, considering the widespread criticism of this administration in the media, how do you claim that the president's policies reflect the will of the people?" Karoline paused, her gaze sweeping over the room. This was the moment she had prepared for, the question she knew would come. "Thank you for your question," she began, her voice resonating with a calm power. "This administration was elected by the people for the people. Each policy is crafted with the American citizen in mind, backed by extensive research and public consultation. The media's role is to inform, but sadly, it often leans towards sensationalism. It's high time the narrative aligns with the facts, not opinions." The room erupted in murmurs and more questions were shouted, but Karoline raised her hands, signaling the end of the briefing. As she walked away from the podium, there was a sense among many that they had just witnessed a defining moment. Her performance that day did more than just address the immediate questions. It set a new tone for the administration's dealings with the press, one of unapologetic truth and formidable clarity. The aftermath of the press briefing was like the calm after a storm. Clips and quotes from Karoline Leavitt's fierce rebuttals circulated on every channel and social media platform. The moment she had declared the need for the media to align with facts rather than opinions became viral, sparking debates across various platforms. Later that evening, Karoline sat in her office reviewing the day's footage. She knew that her performance had made waves, but she also understood that the real battle was just beginning. The media's portrayal of the administration was a constant challenge, and today's briefing had put her right at the center of the storm. As she prepared for the next day, her phone buzzed with a text from President Trump. "Great job today, Karoline. Keep holding them to the facts." Encouraged by his support, she felt ready to face whatever came next. The next morning brought a new challenge. A major liberal newspaper had run a headline suggesting that Karoline's defense of the president was part of a larger strategy to mislead the public. The article dissected her responses, painting them as evasive and manipulative. Karoline decided to address this head-on. She organized a small, off-the-record meeting with a few of the reporters from the press briefing, including some from the newspaper in question. Her aim was to open a dialogue about the role of the press and the administration's perspective. At the meeting, she greeted each reporter warmly, despite their adversarial roles. "Thank you for coming," she began. "I know we've had our differences, but I believe it's crucial we understand each other's roles in this democracy. From our side, it's transparency within reason, and from yours, it should be accountability, not antagonism." The reporters were taken aback by her candid approach. One of them, the journalist who wrote the critical article, challenged her. "How can we not be antagonistic when it feels like there's so much at stake?" Karoline nodded, acknowledging the concern. "What's at stake is the trust of the American public," she replied. "If they see us as adversaries instead of as mutual participants in this democratic process, then we all lose. It's not about avoiding tough questions, but about ensuring that the answers given and the stories reported are rooted in truth." The conversation that followed was intense but respectful. Karoline took the time to explain the administration's policies and decisions in more depth, offering them a peek into the complexities of government operations. She didn't shy away from admitting where there were challenges but emphasized the efforts being made to address them. As the meeting ended, there was a sense of mutual respect in the room. The reporters left with a deeper understanding of the administration's perspective, and Karoline felt hopeful that this could mark the beginning of a more constructive relationship with the press. The next day, several of the reporters wrote pieces that presented a more balanced view of the administration's policies. The headline from the previous day's antagonistic article was countered by others that showcased the nuance of the issues discussed. Karoline knew this was only a temporary respite, but it was a step in the right direction. She had managed to open a channel of communication that had been severely lacking, and she was determined to keep it open. In the weeks that followed, Karoline Leavitt continued to strengthen her approach to managing White House communications with a strategy that emphasized transparency, accountability, and direct engagement. Her interactions with the press began to slowly transform the media landscape, as more journalists started to report with a balanced perspective, influenced by the deeper insights they were now receiving. Karoline's next big test came when a major policy announcement was on the horizon. It was a controversial trade deal that had both staunch supporters and detractors within and outside of the government. The deal was complex, involving multiple countries and affecting numerous industries. The administration saw it as a vital step towards strengthening the economy, but the potential for widespread criticism was high, especially from those who felt it might threaten local jobs. Before the official announcement, Karoline arranged for a series of briefings for key media personnel. She brought in experts from the trade and economics departments to provide detailed presentations on the nuances of the deal. She made sure that every question was answered, not just with prepared statements but with data and context that gave a clearer picture of the long-term benefits. The day the trade deal was announced, Karoline was prepared for a barrage of questions at the press briefing. She opened the session with a detailed explanation of the deal, emphasizing its benefits and acknowledging the concerns. While no deal is perfect, the benefits of this agreement far outweigh the drawbacks. "Here are the facts and figures," she said, presenting a slide with key points and data. As expected, the questions came hard and fast. One reporter asked, "Isn't it true that this deal could result in significant job losses in several industries? How can you justify this to the American workers?" Karoline responded, "It's important to look at the entire landscape. While there may be adjustments in some sectors, the deal also creates substantial new opportunities in others. Furthermore, we are implementing robust support programs for industries in transition. Here's the data on how these programs have succeeded in the past." Her preparedness and the depth of her responses made it difficult for the narrative to skew towards a negative angle. Following the briefing, the coverage was varied, with many outlets presenting a more nuanced view of the trade deal. Encouraged by the shift in media handling, Karoline launched a new initiative called Facts First Fridays, a weekly session where she, along with different policy experts, would discuss major policies and national issues live on social media, answering questions from both the press and the public. The sessions quickly gained traction, becoming a trusted source of information. Karoline's efforts were beginning to bear fruit. The perception of the administration, while still mixed, started to show signs of improvement in various polls. More importantly, the public discourse around political decisions became more informed and less polarized. As Karoline's initiatives began to reshape the dialogue between the White House and the public, new challenges emerged that tested her resolve and the efficacy of her strategies. One such challenge was an impending budget crisis, coupled with a looming government shutdown. The stakes were high, and the potential for public outcry and media frenzy was imminent. Karoline knew that managing the narrative during a crisis was crucial. She planned a proactive communication strategy that involved daily briefings, detailed updates on the administration's efforts to negotiate with Congress, and a series of Facts First Fridays focused specifically on the budget talks. As the deadline for the budget approval neared, tensions within the Capitol were mirrored by those in the media. Sensational headlines and speculative articles began to overshadow the substantive discussions that were taking place behind closed doors. Recognizing the need to cut through the noise, Karoline arranged for an exclusive, televised interview with a respected journalist known for her integrity and depth. During the interview, Karoline was candid about the complexities of the negotiations. These discussions involve numerous factors and considerations. We're working tirelessly to find a solution that benefits the greatest number of Americans. Here are the points of agreement and contention as of this morning, she explained, showing documents and charts that made the process transparent. The interview had a calming effect on the public discourse. It provided a direct insight into the seriousness with which the administration was taking the situation, and it highlighted the efforts being made to avoid a shutdown. The positive feedback from the public encouraged other media outlets to adopt a more measured approach to their coverage. Despite her successes, Karoline faced internal pressures as well. Some members of the administration were skeptical of her open book strategy, concerned that too much transparency might backfire. Karoline had to navigate these internal dynamics carefully, reassuring her colleagues while maintaining her commitment to openness. As the budget crisis was averted at the last minute with a bipartisan agreement, Karoline's strategy was credited with helping to maintain public trust in the administration during a tumultuous period. The president publicly thanked her in a press conference, noting her role in keeping the American people informed and engaged throughout this process. Buoyed by this acknowledgement, Karoline continued to refine her approach. She started organizing community engagement sessions across the country, where administration officials could meet directly with citizens to discuss their concerns and perspectives. These sessions were broadcast live, allowing for a broader national dialogue. Karoline's tireless work was beginning to change the landscape of political communication. By prioritizing factual integrity and direct engagement, she was not only informing the public, but also fostering a more participatory form of democracy. As the months passed, Karoline Leavitt's innovative communication strategies continued to reshape the interaction between the White House and the American public. Her efforts to promote transparency and direct engagement had not only improved the administration's image, but had also set a new standard for political communication across the country. One of Karoline's most significant challenges still lay ahead: the upcoming presidential election. With the political climate more volatile and divided than ever, her role became even more critical. She was tasked with articulating the administration's achievements and vision for the future while countering misinformation and hyperpartisan narratives that were rampant during the election cycle. To tackle this, Karoline launched a nationwide campaign called The Facts Matter, focusing on providing clear, concise, and factual information about the administration's policies and their impacts. This campaign included town hall meetings, social media sessions, and partnerships with community leaders to facilitate discussions on ground-level issues. Karoline also intensified her efforts to train the administration's spokespeople, preparing them to handle the media effectively and equitably. She organized workshops that focused on handling tough questions with grace and factual accuracy, understanding the media landscape, and engaging with citizens in meaningful ways. As Election Day approached, the effectiveness of Karoline's strategies became evident. Polls indicated a shift in public opinion, with more people feeling informed about their choices and less influenced by sensational media coverage. The administration's approval ratings saw a modest but significant increase, particularly in areas where the Facts Matter campaign had been most active. On election night, as results poured in, the tension was palpable. Karoline coordinated the administration's communication, ensuring that messages were consistent and responsive to the evolving situation. When the final results confirmed President Trump's re-election, she was among the first he thanked during his victory speech, acknowledging her pivotal role in the campaign's success. In the aftermath of the election, Karoline reflected on her journey from the first contentious press briefing to her central role in a successful presidential campaign. She had not only navigated the treacherous waters of political communication, but had also emerged as a leader who had significantly altered the way the White House communicated with the American people. Karoline's legacy would be defined by her unwavering commitment to truth and transparency, her innovative approach to public engagement, and her ability to adapt to and shape the media landscape. As she prepared for the next term, she planned to expand her initiatives, focusing on even greater transparency and public participation. Her vision was clear: a government that communicates openly and effectively with its citizens, fostering a more informed and engaged electorate. With Karoline at the helm of communications, the administration was set to navigate the future with confidence, guided by the principles of clarity, honesty, and direct engagement that had become the hallmark of her tenure.